Jon Favreau of Pod Save America is pissed off because in the wake of the Southern California wildfires that are devastating Los Angeles right now, a lot of people on Twitter are getting all political. He wants to see a platform where you can just find helpful reporting and emergency information without stumbling over thousands of posts from people who see a devastating fire as an opportunity to share their half-baked political takes. It says if you ran into someone on the street who had just lost everything in a fire, would you start screaming at them about water policy and forest management? Then why would you do that here? Now, he's referring, I think, to both people on the right and people on the left. That is, people on the right criticizing the mayor of Los Angeles and the governor of California, but also implied in his statement is that those of us on the left who, in response to these fires, have been talking about the climate catastrophe, which is exacerbating the threat of wildfires and making them far more devastating and frequent, that we are getting too political, that we just need to talk about, immediate emergency response and don't bring politics into this. Well, we have to bring politics into this. Jon Favreau doesn't want us to talk about the causes of what is happening to people. But it could not be more urgent and important right now, in this moment, with Southern California on fire, with 400,000 people without power as I record this, with 1,000 buildings burned, with multiple people already dead, with whole communities under threat, with schools closed and firefighters struggling with water shortages, families losing everything. It is so important in this moment to understand exactly what is causing this problem. Why these natural disasters are escalating, why they're getting out of control, why it feels like the world is spiraling out of control. Now look, wildfires in California are a regular occurrence. There's a fire season. And these ones have been made far worse by the Santa Ana winds. But we know that climate change is making these fires much worse by creating the unseasonably dry conditions under which wildfires grow out of control. Southern California has had almost no rainfall since the summer. And as Cal Matters writes, as climate change warms the planet, wildfires have become so unpredictable and extreme that new words have been invented. Fire-nado, gigafire, fire siege, even fire pandemic. California has had 78 more annual fire days where conditions are right for fires to spark than 50 years ago. California's wildfire season is now almost year-round. Nothing is as it was, they note. Welcome to the pyrocene, they say. The age of fire, a term coined by a fire scientist. Now, we have to understand what is happening around us if we are to stand any chance of doing anything about it. And there are some basic facts here. First, these fires are made worse by the climate crisis. The climate crisis occurs because of the burning of fossil fuels. The climate crisis could have been averted decades ago, but it's only because our politicians have caved to the interests of the fossil fuel industry that we are in a crisis. We didn't need to be here. This was a preventable catastrophe, but now it is a catastrophe, and we are only seeing the beginning of cascading, devastating consequences, and we are heading for a future in which, as climate scientist Peter Kalmus told Current Affairs, huge amounts of the Earth will become uninhabitable. Now, that should be treated as an international emergency requiring a globally coordinated response, but we are seeing such apathy and indifference and denial. I mean, James Woods, who lost his house in the fire, still says, well, this isn't climate change. This is because the mayor can't put out a fire. But why are there fires? Why are there so many more fires? Why are they getting worse? He doesn't have an answer to that. It really is. I talked recently to the director of the movie Don't Look Up, which compares the climate crisis to a comet approaching the Earth. And it is as if a planet-destroying comet is barreling towards us, and our politicians and media have responded by telling us not to look at the comet. Don't get political. Just you don't even see mentions of what's causing this increase in wildfires in media articles about these disasters. In fact, a lot of natural disasters that are exacerbated by climate change, you do not see any mentions of climate change or of the human causes of climate change. You even see right-wing publications, the Wall Street Journal op-ed page, for instance, just ran an article by a guy named Joseph Sternberg that celebrated the failure of politicians to deal with the climate crisis. He says net zero is dead, and it's a good thing, too. He says it's great that climate change is decreasing in prominence as a political issue. And look, he looks forward to an uptick in U.S. fossil fuel production, and says that substantially reducing emissions is simply too harmful to economic prosperity for us to even undertake it. And so he says, you know, some noisy activists might still complain about climate change, but basically it's off the agenda now. So even as this gets worse, even as the effects of climate change really start to hit us in devastating ways, the denial is not going to end. It's going to escalate. Now, we know that Donald Trump, for instance, won't say anything about climate change. J.D. Vance called climate science weird science. And Donald Trump, of course, thinks it's a Chinese hoax, denies that there's a problem at all. If you do press him on the environment, he goes, well, we have clean water. Because I don't even know if he knows what the argument is. And so, of course, he's not going to address it. But the Democratic Party, too, is failing to make an issue of the climate crisis. Kamala Harris ran on a pro-fossil fuel agenda. And then you have people like Favreau saying, well, don't be political. Well, I'm sorry, but the time for being political was a long time ago. We're way past the point where we have to get political about this. We need clarity. We have to help people understand that they are going to be victimized by many more extreme weather events in the years to come. And there are no signs so far that as these effects worsen, our political leaders are going to show any actual leadership. We have to show people how the interests of the fossil fuel industry have been put above the interests of the population at large, so that they understand that the crises they see are not acts of a capricious God because life is rough, right? The crises are something that is being done to them by the powerful. So we need many more climate activists right now who can conduct public education, who can organize people to resist having their future set on fire by a generation of politicians and corporate leaders who could not care less if their actions cause the world to burn. Now, this is a very challenging situation because as the metaphorical comet hurtles towards the Earth, our media are doing a horrible job of explaining the root causes, giving an accurate understanding of what's unfolding. But the attitude that we can't have is the one Favreau has, which is seeing discussions of responsibility right now at the most urgent moment as an offensively political distraction from the immediate work of helping the victims. There are going to be more fires. They're going to have future victims. They're going to get worse. And if we care about those victims, we need to be clear-eyed about the situation. And we need to call out the villains who did this to us and who are destroying our future. Because right now, the most likely future is one of escalating natural disasters accompanied by silence or denial by all of those in a position to actually take action. For more, visit currentaffairs.org, read the article on which this video was based, and subscribe to our beautiful print magazine at currentaffairs.org/subscribe.